Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode in the series Dawah Ilallah, as we look at the ways that we can use comparative sciences to be better in calling people to submit to Allah. And in this series, we have been looking at many different ways that we can improve ourselves so that we can be more effective in the role as a da'i, someone who is calling people to a better way of life. And in this series, we have been looking recently over the last few episodes at public speaking skills, how you can improve the way that you address people when talking to them about Islam. Many people say, but you don't sound anything like you do on TV in real life. I don't notice that. Maybe I do that. Maybe in real life I don't sound like this, I don't know. But some people say to me, what you sound like when you're doing lectures and talks is not what you sound like in real life. Maybe I'm also doing that, I don't know. But if you need to do that to overcome your fear and anxiety, then that's fine, do that. But don't be artificial or fake about it, because you will not be able to carry it on very long. Eventually you'll slip up and you'll fall up and you'll see it not to be true. The most important is to take your time. What you think the pace of the lecture that you are doing is going is not the same as what people are hearing. You know, sometimes we think if we hold for 2 seconds or 3 seconds, people think we've lost what we are talking about. Now, these are not fixed and firm ways, they're just suggestions and ideas that we have gathered from many different sources, specifically from a series on public speaking skills that are taught in a number of universities in the world. So we are looking at what other ways we can use to make our delivery better when we are calling people to Islam. And when we get invited perhaps to speak at a university, a college, a school, perhaps at your campus, how can you use these tools and these techniques to be a better caller? So we've looked at a number of different examples of how we must build the body of our conversation, how to do the introduction, how to do the epilogue or the conclusion, how to get a good response from the people that we are speaking to, how to be truthful in what we are saying when we speak. And now we are going to be talking about how seeing is believing. You know, often we speak to people and they say, well, I'll believe it if I see it. And when we are talking about seeing is believing, what we are talking about in public talks or public lectures is using the materials that you have to the best of your ability or to the best of their ability to help your lecture or talk. The same way when you are doing a lecture or a talk, try to use objects. I've spoken before about using objects on your table when you are doing lectures. In previous recordings for Peace TV, you'll remember that every single time I did a lecture, there would be some object that I'd have on the table. And it was decided that this time wouldn't use so many objects because sometimes the objects can be a distraction. But I believe that sometimes the objects can actually help your lecture, because people will see these objects and wonder, what is he going to be doing next with this object? And therefore it can actually help you in your presentation that you're going to be giving. So make sure that you use things like PowerPoint presentations, whiteboards or green boards or blackboards. Use slideshows, film clips. It's very, very effective these days to actually have perhaps a 2-minute film clip that you will play perhaps on your laptop with your PowerPoint presentation so that people are engaged with what you are going to be talking about. When we talk about different religions, often it is something that I will do to my class. I will show them a 5-minute clip or a 3-minute clip explaining a background of a religion that we are going to be studying. So it's very, very useful to have. If you don't have the ability to have big screens or computers, then you can simply print out the notes and give it to the students so that they have these notes in front of them so they can follow along as you are talking. The most important thing when doing a talk is that you need some type of visual aid. It is not good not to have some type of visual aid, especially if the talk is going to go on for an hour or so. We only have 25-minute slots, so we're hoping, inshallah, that you will stay awake and we'll stay engaged in what we are talking about. wherever possible, avoid distractions. Distractions are not only visual distractions, but distractions in the way we talk. By like going, today, I think maybe those type of distractions, voice distractions. Using words or sounds or expressions that are not audible to people. They don't make any sense to people. So try to say like, I mean like, and then I was speaking like. A lot of people use the word like a lot. So even the word like I used there is something that we should try to avoid because it becomes habit forming. And then we look around and we're doing it 20 or 30 or 40 times. So be aware of the fact that there may be things like twitches or some things that you might be doing that could be distracting to people. Make sure you have somebody who's strong enough to tell you, by the way, this is what you do, so that you can change that. The most important thing to understand is that no matter how much you plan, very, very seldom does it work out the way you planned. The best plans that you have will often fall apart. So be prepared to think on your feet. You might have the most beautiful plan in front of you on how you're going to deliver this talk, and everything changes when you stand up in front of the audience and you realize this is not going to work for this audience. This is not going to work for this program. And you have to change it midstream. To be honest with you, and I'll give you the inside scoop on Areeb's preparation techniques. When I do a lecture preparation, probably only about 20% of what I prepare actually gets delivered. Other 80% gets changed midstream because you have to adapt the whole time. I'm not one of those people who learns things in a parrot fashion. I don't recite and recite and recite and recite my talk and then stand up there and get hung up by the fact that I haven't recited exactly. I'm a wing it type of lecturer. Learn the content and I wing it. I let it be normal and natural as much as possible. So what happens with people like me, and there's a few of us, that because we are like that, we adapt very quickly. If we see something or midstream we have a thought, we will change the entire content of the lecture that was supposed to be presented. But there is a danger being like this, because sometimes you can go way off the topic and you're easily distracted. So you still have to follow your points. So you don't see me opening this, because this tells me exactly how I'm supposed to do the lecture. So instead I keep that closed 99% of the time, and I just follow the point form. Because if I follow this, I'm going to think, oh, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I do this? And then sometimes we miss other things that are more important that come up as we are delivering the talk or lecture. So be very aware of the fact that your best plans may not work out. Even though you've done all the hard work, you often find that you have to dump a lot of your lectures, change a lot of your talk midstream. So I don't think ever have I prepared a talk in all the years that I've done a talk that I've used 100% of it. I only use maybe 20%, and the rest just comes as you're talking, from previous experiences, from previous things that have happened. So be aware that that will happen, or that it could happen when you're delivering your talk. We're going to look at different techniques or ways that you can overcome anxiety when you are doing talks. The fear of fear is what most people suffer from. The fear of fear. They don't actually suffer from fear of public talking. They fear fear. And they get scared that they're going to get scared. Or they get scared that they're going to get nervous. Or they're nervous that they're going to be nervous when they're delivering a talk. The secret to public speaking is that nobody else knows what you're going to say next other than you. This is the golden cheat sheet of public speaking. They don't know what's going to come out of your mouth next. It's not like they're sitting there with your dialogue. So if you make a deviation from what you were going to say, they are not the wiser. So make sure that you don't go, oh no, I forgot that, and then stop midstream. You just keep going on ahead. They don't know the dialogue. Only you know the dialogue. So make sure when you learn public speaking or when you're doing public speaking, don't worry if you missed out a point. You can always go back to it later. Talking about later, let's take a break. When we get back from the break, we will continue, inshallah.
different people, one God.
The Prophet ﷺ told us what is lawful is clear.
Many beliefs united in humanity, various prejudices, justice universal.
And what is unlawful is clear.
Let's overcome our shortcomings to attain peace.
The Prophet ﷺ left everything well explained and manifest for all of us.
Dr. Muhammad Saeed.
Welcome to the Prophet Teaches.
Let's learn about the message of God for mankind and its exemplary implementation as The Prophet Teaches, today at 3:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 1 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV.
What would you recommend?
Peace TV presents
What do you have to say about
Learning the Wise Way.
what would you recommend us to take as career?
After we pass our school, so what exactly we should do?
What do you have to say about pursuing two fields together?
Ideas brilliant. Strategy sustained.
The best profession is a profession of a person who invites people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Avail the opportunity with Dr. Zakir.
Depending upon what is your interest. But the main aim should be to spread the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
To implement the convincing Islamic educational formula to excel in your career. Watch Career Guidance every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 9:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. Peace TV presents over 100 million viewers at one of the largest peace conferences in the world, addressing a sea of spellbound spectators. Over 30 world-renowned orators on Islam with credentials impeccable.
The truth of
Islam. Deen is your way of life.
It is our duty, our obligation.
By following the Quran and Sunnah, we will give the message to one and all.
With articulation exquisite.
Read the book of Allah.
Islam is the easy way. It's the simple way.
Remind each other.
The Muslim is not a source of harm for other people.
Collaborate with the people for good.
This is the call of Islam.
With the mission of spreading the truth of Islam.
Do what you can to spread the word of Islam. Wherever we are.
Live like Muslims.
Use your power.
Allah is saying, why do you need anything else? This Quran is self-sufficient.
The only book on the face of the globe, the Quran.
how a human being should lead his life is given in this instruction manual, the glorious Quran.
For peace to prevail on earth in Peacemakers. Next on Peace TV.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're continuing with looking at the ways that we can be effective in presenting Islam or doing public lectures or public talks. And we said one of the golden rules, one of them, there are many, is that when you are delivering a talk or a lecture or you're talking to somebody about Islam, don't worry if you have prepared a wonderful set of notes and then you forget a point and you move off. And you go, oh no, now you get all tongue-tied and you feel like, oh, I've messed up everything, I don't know what to do next. Nobody else knows what your dialogue is other than yourself. So it's almost like an acting. If you forget a line, nobody else knows what the line is anyway. So don't go, I don't know what to say next. You just carry on. Improvise. And then you'll catch up later with what that thought was, and then you can present it again. So if you've missed the point, then don't worry, you can catch up with it at a later stage. Don't feel afraid. So don't fear fear. Don't be anxious of anxiety. Don't be scared of being scared. So this is very, very important when we look at how to overcome anxiety, is realize that you're only fearing fear itself. You're only making mistakes in your own eyes. Nobody else knows you've made that mistake. You can correct it anywhere along the line. Try to be as confident as you can, even if you have to pretend to be confident. So sometimes, if you stand up and you're a nervous person, there's a brother that I know well. He is like this. When you talk to him in real life, he is a stutterer, he can hardly hold a conversation with him. But put him behind a microphone and he just goes for it. Chapters, verses, power. But it's not real. Not that it's a bad thing, it's a good thing. But he overcomes his fear because he has to pretend to be confident to get the message across. And he's very, very good at it, by the way. There's no criticism here from me with him. But in real life, he's very, very timid and he, no, he's one of those guys. But he's very, very powerful when he's behind a mic. I often say to him, if I want to see what you really like, I just give you a microphone. And then he suddenly, like Clark Kent and Superman, two totally different people. So sometimes you might need to be like that. You might have to, have an alter ego. Many people say, but you don't sound anything like you do on TV in real life. I don't notice that. Maybe I do that. Maybe in real life I don't sound like this. I don't know. But some people say to me, what you sound like when you're doing lectures and talks is not what you sound like in real life. Maybe I'm also doing that. I don't know. But if you need to do that to overcome your fear and anxiety, then that's fine. Do that. But don't be artificial or fake about it, because you will not be able to carry it on very long. Eventually you'll slip up and you'll fall up and you'll see it not to be true. The most important is to take your time. What you think the pace of the lecture that you are doing is going is not the same as what people are hearing. Sometimes we think if we hold for 2 seconds or 3 seconds, people will think we've lost what we are talking about. So maybe we are talking and then I go, and the next point is, you think to yourself, oh no, people have realized that I don't know what I'm talking about and I've lost my place on what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with taking a 2-second or 3-second break. On radio, they call it dead air. Then you're not to do that on radio. On radio, you have to just keep talking. You can't have like 3 seconds of dead air. So that's different to television. But generally, don't worry. Take your time, breathe, relax. Don't have to rush anywhere. There's no need to rush and make mistakes. Collect your thoughts, take a deep breath, think of where you want to be, and then continue talking again. But the most important thing when doing any lecture is to be prepared for the unexpected. Be prepared that an idea won't just pop into your head out of the blue, or that somebody might give you an idea, especially during Q&A time. And speaking about Q&A time, this is time for Q&A. You are the representatives that are in the studio of the thousands or millions of people at home that would like to ask questions. So I want you to think of questions you would like to ask that perhaps people at home might be thinking, that you could use, or what you shouldn't be doing when doing public speaking. And this is your opportunity, if you have a question to ask me a question on how to develop or what not to do when doing public speaking. So if you have any questions, you can get ready now to ask them. You can take the microphone and pass it along. And while the microphone is being passed along, let me just say the following, that you need to practice, and then you need to practice again, and you need to practice again with your public speaking. Maybe record yourself on video, maybe do a talk in front of the mirror. It's better to do the talk in front on a video camera than a mirror, because you can go back, like you see the sports events, the guys will go back afterwards and point out to see the errors. Okay, any questions you have?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sheikh, while giving a public lecture, if I find around 20% of the audience are not getting my point, they are blind-faced. And at such a situation, what should I do? Should I repeat or just go on? Because if I repeat, maybe that the rest of 80%, they may feel it boring. So what should I do at such?
Important thing to do is to be able to watch what your audience is doing. So if you're losing 20%, there's guaranteed at least another 20% that are looking at you, looking like they're understanding, that are also exactly like that other 20%. So that means you haven't lost 20, you probably lost about 40%. If 40% of the people are looking blank, that means you've lost 80%. So double it in your own mind. So if it's 20, it's actually 40. That's a big number you're losing. Rather engage them. So if you're busy talking, you think they've lost the point, say, and you, brother, what would you do? Not asking, you don't want to answer from him. You just engage him. You say, what would you do about the situation? Think about that. How would you deal with the situation? Because this is a question we all have to ask ourselves. So you bring everyone else back in. that guy's just got engaged. And then focus all your engagings to pull people back in on those 20% that you think you're losing. The other 20% that were sleeping, that you can't see or nothing, they suddenly waking up in case you focus your attention on them too. So it's a way of bringing them all back in again. So suddenly they go, oh, hey, maybe I should be, maybe asking me an actual question. So they start getting nervous. So engage them, focus on them, put your attention. If you start to see they're going, look at their eyes, like get them engaged again. Even if you have to say, you get what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to say to somebody in the middle of the talk, say, do you understand what I'm saying? And a few minutes ago, they're going, So you're getting them engaged again. Now he's having to put the brain cell on. He's having to switch everything on and go, okay, I'm going to try and think. See? So there are techniques. This is just going to come with a period of time. So you don't have to repeat the whole thing. Just say, you follow me, you get me, you're with me, num, you know? These things, very good. You'll see many of the guys do that. Many of the good speakers do that. You'll see a person, maybe the video was watching him, they're going, falling asleep. And what happens? Later you see the camera and the guy's wide awake because he's engaged the guy to bring him out of that sleep. You don't want somebody doing that in the thing because it's the worst thing for the speaker. So he'll wake him up. Any other questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I've got a question. During public speaking, we usually might have a group of people in the whole crowd that might have some anti-Islamic thoughts.
Yes.
So like they might be passing comments on the lecture or on the topic to the nearby neighbors who might be engaged in the lecture. So how to deal with them?
Okay, so you're in an open group, maybe on the street. You're talking to a big group in the street, and then people are coming in and trying to say to them, don't listen to what this man is saying. He doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, blah, blah. That is different to doing a public lecture. Normally, that would call heckling. If somebody comes into the group and they shout that out in the middle of the group, normally you would have people that are in that would come and take those people out. They say, listen, this is not the platform for this. It's not a debate. Please leave the building. This is what normally happens when something like that happens. If you're out in the public and you're doing a public lecture out in the open where there's no one like that, then you have to learn techniques to handle with hecklers. That's a different story. But normally in an organized event, somebody would come along and they'd take those guys out. They say, listen, and you as a speaker would normally turn and say, thank you very much for your comments. So these type of things happen with a live event. But you're welcome to contact me and we can organize a debate if you like, and you can have your view and I can have my view and we can organize a proper debate. Just shouting out an accusation is not an appropriate thing to do. So you address it, then move on. Don't make it a passing comment. Show respect to that person. You remember you're still trying to do dawah, and then move on. But normally you have people that deal with it. If you're out on the street and you're giving a public talk, you just got to learn to deal with that. It happens a lot. When we're doing public talks, that's what happens. If it's an organized event, it normally won't happen. It happens to politicians. They're busy giving a talk. I mean, it's happened to almost every politician. I mean, these things happen. So, you know, even your best plans and your best systems in place still can't prepare for what can happen. So it's the best thing is to have sabr, patience, and say to the person like, thank you, thank you, good comment. You're welcome to contact the organizers. I'm sure we can organize the debates in the future and things like that. Very simple. We've got 1 minute left. Anybody have another question you would like to ask?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How to address the audience which are a mixed population? Some are elders, some are youngers, and some are from other cultures. How to address them?
When you're giving the message of dawah, you want a 6-year-old to understand it and a 96-year-old to understand it. Whether they are Hindus, Christians, atheists, the message must be very clear for everybody. So you're not trying to give a message only to Hindus or Buddhists, especially in the public platform. You want it understandable and simple for everybody to understand. So don't use jargon, don't use Islamese, don't use terminology that people won't understand. So you have to be sensitive to the fact that you have to have a broad appeal to a broad number of people in what you're doing. Well, we've run out of time, so you're going to have to join us again in the same place. So for me, Areeb Islam, and those in the audience here, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.